Hi, my name is Eric Rodriguez. I'm a full stack software engineer and at the same time a founder of Stream Overlay Pro, which is a software that allows you to create dynamic overlays for live streaming. I decided to create this YouTube channel in order to show you how to code, how to program, and for front-end environments and back-end environments using JavaScript, Node.js, and other languages and technologies. And in order for you to acquire good knowledge, we're going to start with fundamentals, and we are going to touch basic data types in JavaScript. So let's get started. To understand the fundamentals of JavaScript, we have to understand how JavaScript processes variables. So JavaScript is not a type-defined language. Instead, every variable that you define inside of JavaScript has a dynamic assignation of what type it is. So let's follow this example that I'm going to type in VS Code. So I say I'm going to have here let my number is equals to 1. Fine there. And I'm going to say console.log my number. So my number is going to throw in the terminal this number 1. I'm going to increase the font. So you see number 1, which is good. It's telling us it's a number. But what happens if I say console log number plus hello? So it's going to try 1 hello, which is a problem because I was expecting JavaScript to throw me an error. So there are things that we have to understand JavaScript processes typing dynamically. So first, let's understand how variables work. So what are the basic data types that JavaScript has? So later on, we can understand how can we work with variables. Booleans only hold two states that are true and false. Aside of that, a Boolean value cannot store anything else. So let's see how it behaves now that we translate to code. So I'm going to create a variable called my Boolean. And pretty much it's going to say true as a value. So aside of that, I'm going to say here console.log my Boolean, and it's going to return me it is true. If I say false, it's going to tell me it is false. So there are some inconvenience, not inconvenient. The correct way to write it is using lowercase. If you write it as a uppercase true, it's gonna throw me an error because true is not defined. So what is the difference in this case? A defined Boolean has to be lowercase, but in this case, Visual Studio is telling me that true is a variable. So why this happens? It's because this is not a recognized value inside of the types of JavaScript to type true. What if I type true like this? It's gonna apply the same case. So uppercase T, true, is not defined. So this is not a valid value. So I'm gonna say here is true in lowercase, and this is gonna be recognized as a value, true or false. If I want to inquire the type, I can use type of, and this is going to tell me that it's a Boolean. Strings are the representation of characters concatenated one after another to represent a word or a series of characters. So that is called a string. So what we're going to do is to show you how it works inside of JavaScript. So I'm going to say here, let letter. It's going to say A. That's a string. So I'm going to say here, console.log letter. And we're going to print A. And we're going to say here, let, I'm going to say hello world. I'm going to say here, hello world. And let's throw it to the console. Console.log hello world. And the next is going to just say my name. That's my name. I'm going to say here, my name is Eric. And let's throw that to the console. My name. Okay. So once we say that, we want to execute the program. So now we have console.log. The first one is a letter. The second is just the variable, the value of the variable hello world, that is hello world. And third is going to print the value of the variable my name, that is my name Eric. The common way to concatenate or to put together two strings generally is console.log. I say here hello world plus my name. I'm gonna remove these console logs very quickly and let's run the program so we see the result. So we see hello world, my name is Eric, but as you see, there is no a space or a comma. So what we do here, we add another string inside of this concatenation. So we're gonna say here comma space and plus. Say here hello world comma. Now you see the comma over here. My name is Eric. The second way to concatenate strings is by using template literals or template strings. So let's see how this works. So I'm going to say a const greeting, or I'm going to say let. We're not discuss that later, but I'm going to say here for the moment, let greeting is going to be, and we're going to use the backtick sign. That is this we use backticks for template strings, and I'm gonna inject the value of one of my strings. In this case, I'm gonna use cash sign. We put this into this curly brackets, and then I need to type the name of my variable. In this case, hello world. Next, I'm gonna say comma space. I'm gonna say here another variable that is my name. And I'm gonna add comma here. Nice to meet you. Now let's see how it is displayed in the terminal. I'm gonna say here console.log greeting. Now it includes everything that we put here, but we use the template literals just to make it easier to manipulate the content instead of using concatenation using the plus sign. So it is a good idea for you to start to use template literals. It's quite useful, and I suggest you to use it. The third type of variable are numbers. So if I say here, let my number is equals to 3, and I say console.log my number, it's gonna throw me the console number 3. And if I want to operate that number, let my second number equals to 4, I can tell later on, let's say console.log my number plus my second number is gonna be 7. So of course, numeric values can be processed and operated in diverse ways. If I say divide by 7, I get 0.75 and operate them like we do in regular math. Numbers in JavaScript can be a bit weird depending on how we manipulate them. The best way to understand how big a number can be is by understanding how that works. So we're gonna start to see what is the maximum safe value that you can use in JavaScript and what is the minimum safe value you can use in JavaScript, depending on how big your number is. So I'm gonna say here console.log number, and I'm gonna say here make safe value integer, and it's gonna tell me that this is the maximum safe number that you're gonna use. If I'm going to use something bigger than that, it's gonna display something a bit different. So I'm gonna say here console.log. I'm gonna say this plus 10. Oh, yeah. So in theory, this number should be 19.1. It should be 101 at the end, but it's just giving us 100. If I say 20, It's probably giving us another different number in which we cannot operate, but obviously it's telling me something that is not really true. So the maximum safe number that I can use is this safe integer. But how can I inquire that the value I'm operating is a correct one if it is a safe integer? So when I say here, how can I'm going to inquire, is this safe or not? I'm going to say here, number is safe integer, and I'm gonna operate this, and more likely it's gonna tell me that it's false because it goes higher than the maximum safe integer that we can input in the terminal, or that the computer can display properly. So even if we go into the realm of negative integers, it's gonna execute in the same way. So if we go, say, instead of max, we say min, it's gonna tell me this is the maximum negative value that you can input inside of what is human readable. In the same way, I can say if it is a negative number, if it is a safe integer with the same numeric value in a -4, I'm gonna say here -20, it's gonna return me false because it goes beyond of that spectrum. So that's one way to understand how big is the number I want to operate. Now, numbers in JavaScript can go in the realm of integers when things go towards minus infinite, and things can go towards a positive infinity. So there are ways to interpret those inside of JavaScript. And the way to do it, if we say console.log, I'm going to say here 150 divided plus 0, is gonna tell me that is going to infinity. So it's going in the realm of positive numbers going to infinity. In the same way, if I want to go with in the terms of the negative infinity, I'm gonna say here -0, it's gonna turn me also minus infinity. I just wonder if what happened if I say -150 divided by -0 is going minus, you cancel those minus, goes to infinity just by using just basic arithmetic. You cancel these two, it's going to be the same value. The next subject that I want to touch is related to normal objects. Those normal objects could be collections of data that you organize in a data structure inside of a variable. So in JavaScript, we have arrays and objects in the form of collections. So let's start to understand uh, those kind of data structures. The first one is an array. Let's say console, the log. I want to say here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what I have here is an array. In the most basic form, it's gonna say here, if I save this, it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I say console log type of, it's gonna tell me that it's an object, but this object inside of the memory is represented as an array. Another way, there are many ways to inquire the type, but the most common one is just to ask array if it is array. It's gonna return me true. If it is true, it is false, it's gonna return me false. In this case, this is an array. If I say here hello, it's gonna throw me false. The reason of why I'm using array is because it checks if the object has something called an iterator. An iterator is a property inside of this object that allows me to go and inquire the values that this array contains. So that's one way to define an array. So we're going to say here, let array 1 is going to be equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say here console log array 1, and it's going to throw me this array. Another way to define an array is going to say here, let array 2 is equals to array. And you can define sizes to the arrays. You can leave it as an empty object, but if you want to say 20 or 12, let's write 12. I'm gonna say here console.log array2. You're gonna see that it says there are 12 slots inside of this array that are empty. So you can define sizes inside of those arrays. And the values of these arrays are anything that we defined before. It could be a number, it could be a string, it could be a Boolean values, could be nulls, or could be undefined. But in this case, every value here is just an empty array in this array too. The next type of object related to arrays are sets. So let's create a new set. Let my set is equals to new set. And this new set, what it is gonna tell me is I'm going to create an empty array. The only difference with the previous arrays, and I'm gonna put it here. Let my array is gonna be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And let's console this one. The only difference that you're gonna see is that you're gonna have in a regular array, you can repeat values. However, in set, that doesn't happen. Whatever happens on set is, I wanna say here, my set dot add, let's say 1, I'm gonna add 2, I'm gonna add 3, I'm gonna add again 1, I'm gonna add 2, and again I'm gonna add 3. And now that I have defined my set, and I'm gonna say console.log my set, you're gonna see that it's only displaying 1, 2, 3 because sets only holds unique values. I'm gonna say here console.log my set, and you see the set only contains 1, 2, and 3. So if you really want to keep a collection of unique numbers, you can go into this approach, which is quite useful if you are having a massive index of data and you want to properly make unique those values inside of that set object. This is the best way to do it. It is also possible for an array to remove those duplicated objects without going over too much length if we combine set and array at the same time. So I'm going to say here, let my second set is equals to new set, and we say the iterable. In this case, my array is an iterable. I'm going to say here my array. And when I say here, I'm going to say console.log my second set. So you're going to see that just to remove complexity, I'm just going to, not complexity, just to hide these consoles. We already know our first array, our first console log is an array, our second console log is a set. But what happens if I pass an array through a set is going to remove duplicates. And as we see here, let's make the comparison here. Console.log my array. So you're gonna see that first we pass the array to my second set, and then my second set is gonna reduce those sets to single unique values. Now, how can we convert the set back to arrays? It's gonna be quite simple. We're gonna say here const my simplified array is equals to array from. So we take an object and we convert it back into an array. It could be an iterable, and set is an iterable. In this case, we're gonna say my second set. So you see here the console, how this it says set in this second console in line 16. So it's telling us that it's a set. But once we go and it says here console.log my simplified array, Now you have this set converted back to an array. So there are things that you can do inside of sets and arrays that are quite interesting if you want to simplify data, and it's quite cool. The last kind of object that I want to treat is called maps. In Python, people call it dictionaries, and a dictionary usually comes with a pair of a key and a value. So we're gonna say here X. I'm gonna say here my string is gonna be hello. So this is a pair of key and value, and I can say my number. I'm gonna say here 1. My Boolean is equals to true. Let's say here my array is gonna be here 1, 2, 3, and of course, because it's a dictionary, we can contain in itself any other sort of data aside of. We can include subsets of the dictionary. So we're gonna say here my second dictionary is gonna be again another object. I'm gonna say here, reminder, after every pair of key values, you add a comma at the end. I'm gonna say here my second dictionary is equals to, let's say A is equals to 1, B is equals to 2, C is equals to hello. And that's pretty much. You structure data in a way that is convenient for you to assimilate or pass through another program to read it and process that information. So let's see how it looks inside of the console. We're going to say here console.log x. And as you see, it is showing me this arrow. This means that I can disclose that piece of information and see what is inside. And I have my array, and inside of this array I have 0, 1, 2, 3. And I have my Boolean, that is true. My number is 1, and my second dictionary is a nested object. And you can have, again, a set of pairs of key values. So pretty much, this is something that we call a JSON, that is JavaScript object notation, in which you describe the information or the data structure in this way. So it is quite convenient if you want to disclose big pieces of information that you can pass to a program, and this program can process it in an efficient way, depending on the key pairs of key values that you want to organize in this data structure. And that's pretty much in the part of basic fundamentals, how JavaScript operate basic data types, and how we work with normal objects like arrays, sets, and dictionaries in this case. So I'm gonna try to keep posting more content. I hope you like it. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe to this series of YouTube videos, please the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Okay, have a good day.